Thank you, Senator Shaheen. I do have a couple of brief follow-ups, and they relate to Endstrength. I want to obviously, you all can weigh in on it, but particularly General Allyn, General Paxton, as we think about our ground forces, would like to ask you, General Allyn, where our Army size is right now. How many of those men and women in uniform who have served or deployed combat missions on our behalf are receiving involuntary separations? And what are, as we look at the potential for, if we were called to a major conflict, what our capacity is? And I would like to obviously get General Paxton to comment on the Marine Corps as well, because I think it's important for people to understand where we are vis-a-vis the size of our force, the force structure, versus what we really need for size of force. General Allyn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To your first point, the size of our Army today is about 1.03 million in the total force. We're headed in this program toward
the active duty component of that.
We are at about 482 today.
Oh.
Got to get a SIGO. We are at about 482 today, headed to 475,000 by the end of this fiscal year, and toward a programmed force of 450,000 in the active force. And as I mentioned, with 186,000 deployed on a daily basis in 140 countries, you understand my discomfort with trying to continue to meet emergent demands and current operations with a force that is getting smaller, and what that means in terms of our ability to build surge capacity in a time when the contingencies are becoming ever more real as we face them. So we have done a number of things internally to try to address that risk. We've gone to a sustainable readiness model, a goal of which is to deliver two-thirds of our force ready at any moment in time for an unforeseen contingency. Frankly, at a 980,000 soldier total force, that's the only way that we can make the math work for a major contingency against a peer competitor. And we're sitting at about a third of the total force ready today, sufficiently for combined arms maneuver against a near-peer competitor. And so it's not where we need it to be, and I am absolutely uncomfortable with a force that gets smaller as the demands for our forces continue to grow and the contingency requirements escalate in multiple theaters around the globe.
So how many are, I know this isn't of your desire to do this, so how many of our men and women who have deployed, and I understand many of them deployed more than once, are receiving involuntary separations as we downsize the force, even though it's not consistent with what we need to do to defend the nation?
And I apologize, Senator Ayotte, for not answering that question, that part of your question. The bottom line is, if we continue on the path toward a program force, we will have to involuntarily separate another 14,000 soldiers, 10,000 of which are officers. And on this last round of involuntary reductions, over 50% of those that we were asking to separate involuntarily had 2 or more combat deployments. So these are all soldiers that have answered the call of the nation. They have served admirably, and because of the program force structure, we must separate them. It's not something we want to do, and frankly, we're doing everything that we can to ensure through our Soldier for Life program that we're providing them a seamless transition, and we're also ensuring that our Army Reserve and our National Guard leadership have the first shot at accepting these seasoned soldiers into their ranks, and frankly, it has really helped our reserve component save dollars by taking experienced soldiers into the ranks and not having to retrain them. So that has been a positive benefit of this unfortunate drawdown, but it's still a situation that we should not find ourselves in.
Right, I would say that this is one where I really am concerned that we're not keeping faith with them if they've deployed multiple times and we're going to give them an involuntary separation. And I hope that's something we think about, but also the threats we face given what we need to do. And General Paxton, I wanted to get your thought on this as well, because we've talked about it in prior hearings. We used to build for 2 conflicts, right? And then we went down to a 1.5 conflict strategy. And as I understand where we are now, if we got called to 1 major conflict, we're all in. So can you help us understand that from the ground perspective? And I know we have naval and Air Force issues as well, but in terms of the first in for us.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll try and work in reverse, given your last question. And we were originally, or many years ago, 2 MCO force, and then we reduced from there, and we are now in a defeat deny is the strategy. The DSG has not changed since 2012, and I think the shared concern of the members here in the committee is if you're all in on the defeat piece, what is left for the deny somewhere else? And if the deny grows exponentially, we may not have the indications and warnings we need for lead time. We may not have the strategic lift by sea or air. We may not have either the capability or the capacity to respond in time to keep the other one and either deny or impose costs. So as we are commonly want to say, capacity has a quality all its own. To your original questions, Senator Ayotte, if I may, the Marine Corps at peak strength was 202K. We knew when we were asked for that authorization that was only going to be a 3 or 4 year authorization, and this was pre-sequestration. We have done 3 specific studies on optimal end strength of the Marine Corps. All 3 of those were completed before Senator Kane's point about this is pre-ISIL, pre-Ukraine, pre-South China Sea, pre-cyber, pre-Snowden.
So all of the
all
obvious
of that.
threats we face.
So as we came down from 202, Senator, we knew that the optimal strength of the Marine Corps was supposed to be 186.8. We are today en route to 182,000 by the end of this fiscal year. So we are below where we would optimally like to be. And again, that study was based on previous, unknown previous conditions. So to your second point, we have not had to involuntarily separate anyone. We would obviously prefer not to break faith. And I know the challenges that the larger and the other services have there. We continue to have, 66% of the force on the first term enlistment. It's a fairly young force. Most of them come in for 4 to 6 years, and then they separate. So our challenges are a little different. We do worry, as I said earlier under question, about some of the critical skills, special operations, cyber operations pilots, and how we retain them. And then, ma'am, just as an indicator, the combat capability that we have lost going below 186.8, when we went from 202 to 186.8 to 182, we have lost 3 infantry battalions, 6 towed artillery batteries. So 3 battalions, 6 batteries, 4 tank companies, and 5 AAV companies. So that's conventional capacity that we have offered up because we had to pay for cyber, for space, for nuke, for third offset strategy, and those things that we know are national priorities, but that has been the trade space in terms of conventional capability. Thank you.
Thank all of you for being here. I want to thank you for your leadership in important positions of defending our country and serving our country with such distinction. And I want to thank all of the men and women who serve underneath you for the incredible work that they do, making us proud every day and defending our nation. And especially what we've learned today with the gaps and capabilities that we have, that this is a real issue for us. And I really appreciate your coming forward and testifying.